Welcome back, recruits. I'm Chris Nance with the Northern California Ghostbusters, and today we're going to be showing you how to cleanly remove all of the old, in my opinion, kind of cruddy labels that come on the HasLab pack. We're also going to do a little field trip and show you how to completely repaint the sucker and give it a much better paint job. Let's get going. This is a little dental tool. I colloquially, I know it as a spatula. A lot of places you'll just see it, especially for more general uses. It's usually, more of like a flat blade, but it's just a handy little tool for certain delicate little jobs, like say, lifting a sticker off. So I'm going to be using that, and then we're going to be breaking out a little bit of rubbing alcohol just to clean the glue, any excess glue off the surface as well, so we leave it nice and clean when we go to paint. And we do have replacement stickers from Max Factory. Just starting at a corner, and I'm not being too delicate here because I'm not too worried about retrieving these. All of the labeling's got to come off because it's going to get replaced once the paint is done.
The cool thing about the tool that Chris is using too is that there's a sharp end and a dull end. So people like to use X-Acto blades or razor blades, but the thing is they're sharp. So if this is a nice dull flat surface, I can pull it off rather nicely.
Happen to have these things on hand. Another good method for getting this glue off is actually just a nylon brush. And that same rubbing alcohol. And that really does a lot to help scrub off. You can feel where the glue is still. You can feel how the tacky surface where glue is still at with your thumb. And usually, a lot of the time, you can kind of mark it where it'll show kind of in the light. Even though it doesn't show very well on camera.
This will vary based on how easily the stickers come off and how much excessive glue there is on said stickers. I'm sure we'll have easier ones that I'll cut to later that just peel right off and don't have to take nearly as much elbow grease.
It takes a little bit of time and elbow grease, but it's very doable. It is important to get all that glue that gets left behind off of the surface because otherwise it's gonna screw up your paint job when you do lay paint down on top of it. That are gonna be easier to kind of
Also, the thicker the sticker, right, the easier it is for it to come off so it doesn't tear.
Yep. We are gonna take some paper towels here, and I am just gonna get them good and saturated with rubbing alcohol. I'm gonna lay it on top of the surface and just let it sit for a couple of minutes because it's the alcohol that's doing the work for us in killing that glue. So now that Greg and I have stood around BSing for about 5 or so minutes here, you can see that the paper, what's left of the paper on the glue is pretty fully saturated. It's still a little tacky to the touch.
Three hours later.
Because Greg's impatient, we went with a little bit of Gooby Gone. And we did test it on on the backside of the ion arm cap.
To make sure it didn't melt the plastic or
do anything funky.
And it doesn't, so.
It doesn't appear to, especially if you're not leaving it on long term. I have not tested it sitting there long term, and I know Gooby Gone can be pretty caustic if it gets left to sit long enough. I'm just trying to get all of this loose paper bits off of here as much as possible. Using some alcohol to make sure that there's no Gooby Gone left behind on the surface, because if you do use that on this, it is very oily stuff. You want to make sure it comes back off the surface before you start painting. Ideally, you want to actually wash all of your surfaces with like dish soap or hand soap and water, and possibly give it a quick scrub with like 180 grit sandpaper. So this surface is much shinier, and that is because it is much smoother. Painting on smooth surfaces gives no surface area for the paint to adhere to, which means it is less likely to stick. So you're more likely to get air bubbles and deformations in your paint. Whereas if you both like abrade like this with something like a fine, finishing sandpaper, so you're not really taking too much surface away, you're just kind of roughing the surface up. And this is good advice for gluing things as well. If you have like two smooth surfaces that need to be glued together, rough up those two surfaces with some sandpaper first, so there's more surface area for that glue to sit in and hold. And it's the same idea with paint. Oh yeah, that Gooby Gone, honestly.
We just wanted to make sure that it wasn't, like I said, Chris mentioned, it can be very hazardous to use that on a plastic surface, especially if you're painting and you don't get rid of the oil.
Yeah.
So we were trying to do it the alcohol way, and it does work the alcohol scrubbing way, it just takes a lot more time.
Since we're doing the Gooby Gone thing, all I really need to do is get that painted surface off. And then the Gooby Gone's gonna take all that is gonna be able to soak through that paper stuff underneath.
So this is gonna sit for a few minutes, and then it should just scrub right off, and Chris is gonna start the next one right here.
So this one actually should be kind of easy.
Infamous last words.
Right.
Yes. Yes. No! Oh no! Not bad. Better than the other one.
Mm-hmm. Now, part of the problem is we can't just like spray it on and leave it to puddle in a little puddle doing its job for like 10 minutes, which is what I would do. That would be my go-to, right? Like, we might be able to do it on this top sticker if we can get the pack to sit.
Getting this at an angle, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not even taking off the paint.
No,
The
I'm
silver
surprised.
Sharpie.
I'm surprised it's not getting the Sharpie, because I've heard the Sharpie is pretty easy to get rid of with chemical assistance.
They must use some like weird third-party Sharpie in China. Those are just not going to come off clean. They're just too thin. They've been on there for too long.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right.
That's close enough.
Yeah. That should be. That is what makes me nervous about using this stuff.
Because it
indoors.
sprays and you can't really control where it flies.
Exactly. And I just took. There was that little tiny film of residual glue that was there just now, and you can even see some tiny bits of it here on the corner still struggling to hang on. I just took one paper towel that had some Gooby Gone on it and basically scrubbed it a bit so it was on there and had that stuff on there, and then took a second paper towel with some rubbing alcohol, and then a couple of, no real scrubbing, just kind of a couple of clean swipes out. You can see where the edge of that piece lies there. I'm actually lifting it right now. So that's going to be the culprit where things are going to want to like collect as you're using these different chemicals to scrub this clean. Just kind of be aware to try to work towards the outer edge to keep it away from there.
The paper towel budget is excessive at the Northern Ghostbusters HQ.
Yeah.
Fun fact for you camera folks is I'm holding the Proton Pack and the camera. I can tap focus with my nose. Tap.
And again, just taking another fresh pass with rubbing alcohol to get the whole surface nice and clean. And there we are.
Now for disassemble.
Yeah. We are now outdoors, away from the workbench, where we can actually spray some spray paint. First of all, definitely want to have a good work surface to work on. But second of all, give me 1 second to change into something that I don't mind getting paint on. All right. Now, first step, as always, you've probably already seen this. You want to start with taping things off. Now where we're actually going to be starting, I think, is with the bumper. Now, I do want to take this label off.
Oh, that sticker, okay.
We totally forgot about.
Yeah, we do have everything here that we need. I'm gonna turn this up a little bit so we can see what you're doing.
So doing this in direct sunlight, you can really kind of see how much of a pain it is to get the Gooby Gone off. Like,
We left the sticker on the bumper we forgot, so we're cleaning it off right now.
yep, is now gone. Not too much trouble, unfortunately. We're also left the alcohol at my house.
I have alcohol.
Yeah. Pro tip for pretty much getting anything off of a surface like this, especially under the conditions that we are working, where we're outside, it's a bright sunny day, got a pretty good wind blow going, like high proof rubbing alcohol to take something greasy and oily off is pretty much the perfect option here, because it's gonna.
We're gonna be doing this again once we disassemble the pack a little bit more too, just to make sure we have nothing oily on it again. Might even break out a toothbrush.
It might be overkill, but it might be necessary. We'll see when we get there. And just to be careful, this is probably overkill, because I'm generally gonna shy away from the pegs as I go, and especially the very first coat that I lay is almost certainly going to be kind of more of a very thin targeted coat of silver. We've got a couple of the parts of the pack are already kind of fully prepped and ready to go for some paint. And since we know we're going to be doing some multiple layers and waiting on paint to dry at some point here, we're actually going to go ahead and lay down some silver on a couple of pieces, and then let that dry while we disassemble the rest of the Proton Pack. And then once that is kind of fully dried, we're going to take a little bit of strategic, tactically placed Vaseline and use that to kind of blob in certain places and protect the edges, so that when we go back over it with black, we can swipe that, we can let the black cure and then swipe all that Vaseline stuff off, and it's gonna leave some of the bright metallic finish underneath. I'm not actually gonna hit all sides of both of these. I'm just gonna kind of be a little bit strategic in my placement here. Most specifically, I know I wanna hit these spots that are kind of pre-damaged on the mold. You can see whole pack shell. We've got it stripped down pretty far. We could probably take it a little bit further, but for the sake of filming and what we're doing, most of this is we want to get flat black anyways, so we're doing it. At this point, I'm shoving some protective newspaper inside of the cyclotron to make sure nothing seeps through, because we are going to paint it with the lid on top of this, mostly to protect this. I really want to protect that contact space in order to kind of protect it from any seepage that might get in through the edge. I'm going ahead and stuffing some newspaper inside the middle here, just as a protective, preventative measure. We're not even going to bother with removing this tubing.
Oh wow, look at that. Oh yeah, you can see all the thing.
All of the schmutz. You see, there was a reason why I was hanging on to little pieces of tape to the side here, Greg. So I could do something like this.
But we're just, now this isn't to protect the paint off from paint, it's to protect the seep on the inside, right? That's
Yep,
the...
yep.
Oh my god, in the rare instance, you're gonna see Greg doing some stuff.
Yeah, we've reversed roles here.
This is what I did for the past couple days, is the tape, it takes a long time, it took like 4.5 hours to do the work on the cyclotron that you've already seen, and now this is just a little quick process we're doing. I should be using a straight edge, as Chris would say, the right tool for the right job, but this is fine for a quick patch job, right? That's what they say.
Yeah. Well, and then on top of that, we have, you have an X-Acto knife right here, so we can, as long as it overlaps a little, like you just trim two instead.
Yeah, see, and then you push, I push down. You push, like the tape is very cool. You just push down on it, and then we're gonna X-Acto knife the edges and the sides of what we don't need. Yeah, see, like you see how tedious, people can just see how tedious this is. It's very tedious, very precise. But luckily it's black on black, so miss some stuff out. Or don't make it perfect. All right, see, I'm gonna take this little strip and we're just gonna cover that into the corner as much as we can. And then just push it down with our nail, like that. Oh. See, too much, a little too much.
Between that and then having it all be a uniform.
I'm actually very happy with that. Not, is it perfect? No, but you know, as long as your back can stand it in like me, I think that's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Let's take this back out to the paint table then. Spraying more silver. While we're waiting on that to dry, I'm just gonna go ahead and do a quick pass here and try to get all the little paper bits and Gooby Gone and alcohol that we smeared all over everything while we were taking the stickers off.
Especially in the cravat and the little like corners and divots of like the pack too, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the...
That's exactly where we want to focus, because that's where stuff is going to be sort of accumulating at. Fold up a piece of paper. Cool.
There we go.
Gregory, while you grabbed that, I gotta set up for this.
That's our flat black. Which one did you go with?
Oh, flat black.
Black. Show that to the camera. There we go. Yeah, there you go.
All right.
Get rid of those ugly Sharpies. Oh wow, that looks amazing already. Oh, don't get on the camera.
I have a fair amount of experience at doing this, and I'm going very fast at what I'm doing. If you're just starting out, rather than going on these long, slow strokes, that said, when you have a lot of little intricate spaces to get into like I have here, it just kind of takes a selection of techniques.
We almost forgot to cover the most important part, the connectors. Now, since we couldn't take all the pieces off, Chris is having to go at different angles to get like is it the booster tubes? What are those down there? Like,
and kind of get in behind it where the surface that kind of shows past it, yeah. And even before it's cured, you can kind of already see how much of a difference just flat black across everything makes. So there's probably some spots on the shell itself that I could go back over here and touch up a little bit further, but I kind of want to give this first coat some time to dry and cure. Same thing with a lot of the silver. Well, so here we are about a week later. Well, actually, a week later. We've got 2 complete coats down and the flat black on the whole shell here. I just put the cyclotron lid back in place for visual. There's also some touch-up that Greg has done over the week, just in a couple of little spots. That's totally common with something this large. There's a lot of compound spaces and shapes that are kind of hard to necessarily see when the whole thing is wet with paint. This is kind of a good object lesson of how not to handle these parts for paint, especially because of the ambition of wanting to intentionally undercoat with silver and then overcoat with black and then take the overcoat off but leave the silver behind. We have ended up with pretty much a complete abject failure of that. So well, basically what happened is the plastic surface is too smooth on all of these pieces for the actual silver paint to adhere. So, which also means the black isn't really bonding to the surface either. So everything is just kind of a compromised paint job at this point. What that basically means is all of these parts are going to have to be sanded back and then redone completely, probably on a slightly better weather day. And I think we're going to use a slightly different method of adding in our silver detailing as well.
So we're gonna strip,
Yep.
sand for more texture,
Yep.
paint flat back, and abandon the toothpaste method for a hand paint job instead.
Yep.
That's what we're gonna do. Because you can see there's the stock pack. It did not bond at all. Mm-hmm. So it's okay. This is why we do these videos, so people can learn.
Yeah. Yeah. In the meantime, we can get some highlighting done on the pack itself, though. So let's make some room and bring the shell back in.
So a little bit of role reversal today, since
Wait. Is it?
yeah, that's recording. Yeah, when that's red, when that's glowing red. Yeah.
All right.
So a little bit of role reversal today, since we're doing the paint department. That's me. I'm using some brushes I got at Michael's, and as well as like some Citadel brushes. I know people don't like these because they're expensive, but I do like them, so I use them. And we're gonna be dry brushing today with an acrylic-based paint, Storm Host Silver. You can get this at any hobby store. So this is like their brightest silver they make, like their chrome silver. This is the one I use, and these are expensive. You know, these are like $7 a piece or $8 a piece, depending on where you are. But they do really well. In fact, I did a test on this to make sure the acrylic paint would adhere. I did a little overlap here, and here you can see the little brushes, and it actually looks very good, much better than the Sharpie. Much better than the Sharpie, and you get that nice, like, chip effect that we tried to get with the failed toothbrush method. So I've never done stuff this big before, so we're learning today. So if you've never dry brushed in your life, you're gonna take like a big old brush like this, and you're gonna do something like that to get the edges of where there would be natural chips and occurrence. So what you do is you get a little paint on this, like that, and you don't put it on right away, that's too much. You're gonna go over here. You wanna get it in the recesses of the brush. I'm gonna go over here, and I don't know how well this will work. I might have to do this by the non-dry brush method, but here's one of the methods. So right here in this corner, and you just want to lightly go like this, back and forth, to try to get those raised edges. So you can kind of see it's working out. You can go back here. The more you do it, the more it's going to be bright. The problem I'm having with this method is that like it's doing great on the corners, but as it goes in recessed, you can see like the spackles of paint. So I'll show them another method they can do if they don't like this one. So I don't know if I'm thrilled with that, because the side here you can kind of see how it's like a brush stroke on that end. You see how like it's kind of brushy? So take some of this. There you go. See, that's one method you can do. It looks a little bit better when you do have to wipe it away with a little bit of paper towel. I think I might hand do this. I'll show you guys the hand method too. So I'm taking a little brush here.
And saliva is integral to this process?
Well, it's just a habit you get into as a painter when you paint like several Warhammer armies.
Is it because Citadel paint is delicious?
Non-toxic. Water-based acrylic paint, which is the key. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this section here by hand to see if I like that a little bit better than the dry brush method. To see if it's a little better. So this does take a little bit of practice. So I'm only gonna get the outside of the layer here, like that. Now, this is, so like when you're working with metallic paint, you want to lay it on a little bit thicker, because otherwise it'll shine through the bottom. Kind of using the side of the brush, just try to get the edges. How's that?
There we go.
Let's see what else I can paint here that Chris can see. There is some damage here, so let me just go up here and fill in that crevasse. How much you want the pack to look weathered, it's up to you. It's a personal preference. As you see, I'm just kind of getting like spots that are raised. I'm not doing the dry brush method for this. I think I kind of like this one a little bit better. How's that look, Chris?
Pretty good. A lot better than the stock weathering.
Yeah, that's the, yeah. And remember, you don't want to, if you don't put enough silver on it, it'll show the black underneath. You don't want the black to show because that's what makes it look like paint rather than chipping. We're actually going to paint this one all silver. For that, I'm going to need some different brushes. But look, here's like a nick right here. I'll nick that. Look at that. Boom. So you see how I'm getting those lines down there? So it looks like, it doesn't look like chipping, right? It looks like paint, but if the longer I go over it, the more pronounced it becomes. And just like Chris said, you take a little bit of paper towel and just, because that's basically dust. Like it's just paint dust that'll seal in. And the cool thing about, here's the cool thing about painting with black is that like if I make a mistake, just put black over it. So we're gonna do this thing.
The PPD.
The PPB, which is silver
PPD.
in the Frozen Empire, correct?
Yes. Afterlife Frozen Empires, their PPDs are completely like raw and painted with just the warning label on it.
So I want that look. I don't want this to be black. I want it to stick out a little bit more on the pack. And since my pack in role-playing terms is kind of like an in-between between the safety pack and the Afterlife pack, so we're gonna just paint this all silver by hand. And I have this is a big dry brush, but it's gonna give me those nice smooth things that I need. Here we go. So you can kind of see what happens when you don't put down a thick enough coat. You see the little dark underneath it. Luckily, painting metallic on black is relatively easy. This might need multiple coats. In fact, I know it's going to need multiple coats because you can see the
brush strokes.
Yeah, you can see the brush strokes. Just fine. It adds a little bit of texture. So now I'm moving.
How well that's reading on camera.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good. Sorry, these are brushes I've had for decades, and brushes can last a long time if you clean them and take care of them, which means like, you know, unfortunately taking like paint cleaner, which is very volatile stuff, and cleaning your brushes with them. Oh, so like just to show you how dangerous it can be, when I first used this on these things like, 10 years ago, I submerged the whole brush in instead of just the brush tip. And you can see it stripped out all the finish. Look, it dissolved all the finish on the brush handle. But the brush was clean. Definitely gonna need more than one coat for sure. Also, you kind of also want to be careful at this point because it is a very smooth surface, and even though I did a paint test and it does adhere, it's probably not going to adhere very well until it gets sealed in. So just be careful. Yep. See, the more coats we put on, the more it starts looking like brushed metal and less. Not gonna be like a clean piece of aluminum, but brushed. That's the style, right, Chris? Brushed metal.
Yep. You almost want that kind of the scratching from like sandpaper kind of look, like it's been brushed, like brushed. Yeah.
This may go on a little heavy. Yeah, you like that, don't you? Yeah. That's what fans came here to see, not the hammer. But you see, I'm barely holding the brush above the surface and just finding the edge and just hitting it. And because I'm just finding the edge and it's still a little not as dry as I would normally want it, it's still picking up.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That looks awesome.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Because it's chip, right? No, they don't feel like when you chip something, it doesn't really fade unless you're sanding it, so, or doing it microscopically. So I'm gonna clean up. Actually, just a
Overall, the shape of it looks good.
Just a little bit of the dust. This is
Just,
obviously a spot. I'm going a little heavier here. I'm definitely gonna have to go over this again with a finer brush to coat it again. So I'm gonna have to go over that again with a finer brush a little bit because you can see a lot of the black.
Yeah, you can still see sort of the brush strokes there, but like the overall shape and outline of that is like looks really good.
I think it'll look better than trying to dry brush that because it's not a hard surface. Like it's circular, so we're just gonna go paint over it like this. So I'm gonna paint this all the way around because I want it to look like maybe someone did like the welding work after the fact because they were hasty, which is good for my character, I guess, because I was hasty when we painted. So even if we have the same problem with this paint and say like it doesn't adhere very well because it's smooth, since we're not doing the toothpaste method, that shouldn't be a problem. And then when we seal it, it should be golden.
No, not on Greg's eye. No, there we go.
Don't need too much for this one. I'm actually really liking how it's turning out. You generally want to get all this done before, sealing's like the final thing. So while you most certainly can add paint afterwards, don't recommend it. Try to get it all done before. There you go. As you can see, it develops a little more personality, right?
Right.
Okay, see the little ding right there? So that's built into the pack. You can certainly leave it if you want it, but if you want to fill it in, make it look like a chip, you can just very slowly get the insides of that painted. And this has been like a good, 40 minutes of painting? Like it takes time. So next time, it's one of those perspective things where like you see that pack, Chris's pack that he spent, years modifying and making perfect. It took you several years to get the look you wanted, so it takes time. Just remember, it takes time.
Yeah.
You ever see that Gollum meme where he's painting the eyeball? Yep. It's nothing. It's never been truer on the internet. I might be fucking with it a little too much. Okay. No, that looks good. Oh, see, I got like a little glob there. Trying to make that a little more flat. So I say we just do a little bit of damage control on this part, and then that might be it, I think. It's all a matter about how much you want to make your pack look weathered. It's all personal preference.
Yes, how far you want to take the weathering is entirely like a personal preference thing. I personally kind of like the well-kept look of like there's some weathering here and there, but it's mostly appears to be more, you know, pristine, brand new. But
Well, it also says a lot about the, not to be like total nerd, but like it says a lot about like your Ghostbusting character, right? Keeps his equipment clean and fresh, right? There's certain, you know what I mean? Like that's an important thing to some Ghostbusters.
you know, I've seen people go so far as to like take fiberglass shells and like intentionally replicate the the prop as it lies, you know, 30 years later.
It's like you said, like a pack tells a story.
Yeah.
I said that twice already, but it does. So like maybe I put this one down too many times and like that, and then was a little hasty after my shift. So there's a lot of things down here because I just drop it off. I drop it very haphazardly and don't really take care of it.
You've had to dump it multiple times.
Hey!
Oppa!
That looks very, very good.
Yeah.
Leave that there. This needs a little bit more. Just to cover the black. There's some black in the middle there. Just gonna go over it again with another layer. Kind of let it stack up on top of each other. Same here, lots of black there. See, I'm not creating new gashes, I'm just repainting it. Yeah, that looks great. Look at that.
Yeah.
This is my best work, Chris. Here. It's going perfectly. Paint stain, I gotta mix it again. There we go. There we go. I could tell it was thinning because there's a lot of black on there. The metallic paints always need to be, there we go, mixed thoroughly. Maybe I had to take this part off at a certain point, and I set it down. If you don't use like water-based paints and that you get into that, it's just a habit I've gotten into, bad habit.
Greg, if you just look at me and give me a witness me.
Witness me!
Witness me!
All right, so luckily, I think that's good for now. I'm gonna let this thing dry for a few hours. Like this is acrylic-based paint, so it doesn't need to sit overnight. You most certainly can do it overnight if you want, but I think that's good. I think that's good for now.
We are back again. The first part, you saw us go a little too fast and kind of screw up our whole paint job on some of these parts. Thankfully, the shell, the largest part, went pretty well and it really was just a simple one or two coat. It's a lot of surface area and it worked out all right. So we're going to be clear coating that today. In the intervening week, Greg has gone ahead and scraped and basically just scraped the hell out of all of these parts that we needed to completely repaint and redo. This is just kind of a standard part of building anything, really. At some point, you're going to make some kind of a mistake. And knowing the correct material and method for fixing that mistake is really the trick.
So in this case, Chris, what mistake did I make on the bumper when we painted it to begin with?
So the mistake to begin with was just that we went too fast. We tried to start laying color coats on top of, what we were attempting to do was lay a silver undercoat, and you can kind of see the remains of it here, and then lay a yellow overcoat on top of that. The idea was we were going to use a little bit of Vaseline strategically placed in certain places on top of the silver, so that when we laid the yellow on top of everything, we could let it dry and then just wipe those little globs off, and it would just leave exposed silver undercoating. That didn't work, specifically just because we didn't give it enough time to cure. There are certain tricks that you can do in preparation to make it easier for your paint to succeed. On a really flat, smooth surface, like a lot of the plastic that the HasLab has, it's very hard for paint to adhere because it is so smooth. There is no surface for the paint to flow into and grab onto. One of the tricks that you can do to give yourself a better chance for your paint job to actually adhere correctly is to slightly rough the surface. Not enough that it's going to leave a lot of texture after the paint, but enough that it's going to sort of make the surface uneven and increase the surface area of that, which kind of gives the paint the best possible, opportunity to work. And that's what happened with the toothpaste method right there. You can see visually, actually, that's a very good example. So you can see where the black coat didn't quite fully cover on top of the silver undercoat there. And then you can see this big blob from where we had some Vaseline there, and it actually prevented the silver underneath from being able to fully cure and adhere. And then the black on top of that, it just stayed liquid basically. So when we went to wipe it off, everything came off.
So now we have the cyclotron, and what's this called? The ladder?
The booster tube ladder.
The booster tube ladder have been sanded. A little bit rougher probably than necessary, but I went ham on the sanding.
That's okay.
Really sanded down to get all that paint off and to just give it more texture to adhere to on the paint coat. Mm-hmm. And moving forward, we're only going to do the toothpaste method on this, I think.
Okay.
To try it out. The other ones I'm just gonna hand paint on.
Okay.
Maybe on the small one, because that thing's easily sanded and repainted. There's another good example.
Yeah.
Yeah, that, like you can see the silver got ripped right off and that's just the gray plastic underneath. So we sanded. We're gonna sand most of the stuff. Chris is gonna show you how to sand that stuff later. So we'll show you. He'll do the tubes.
Yeah, we'll do this stuff. We'll take care of that stuff today. We're just gonna start with stuff that's gonna take some time. So I mentioned knowing the right materials and techniques to be able to fix your mistakes. When it comes to painting, especially if you've damaged your part and say, sort of made a surface that is kind of
uneven and damaged.
Bad looking. The thing to go for is basically, this is my go-to for 3D printed materials as well, is filler primer. Filler primer is basically just primer paint, but it is much thicker. It is not textured. It's not like popcorn paint where it actually has little bits of like flour or something in it for the texturing. This is just, specifically real thick primer, which means that you are meant to kind of overspray it a bit and then let it all dry and cure, and then sand it all back. I've had really, really amazing results on 3D printed parts using this stuff, but it is definitely a very time-consuming process, and it just kind of takes a lot of elbow grease and time and patience.
Jacking it, jack. Spanking it, jacking it, spanking it, smack.
This better not become a GIF. Same as you've seen me doing already. I believe if you read the instructions on a can of spray paint, it says 6 to 12 inches.
I think all of them are saved slightly differently.
Whole can 12 to 16 inches. So I'm much closer than that. But 12 inches would be like, okay, I guess that works too.
Ideally, we should be hanging this too, but I don't have a way to hang it, unfortunately. So we might have to do one side, let it dry, flip it over to the other side. Primer adheres faster than paint, right, Chris?
It can, depending on your paint, the circumstances that you're painting.
It's a beautiful day today. It's what, like 80 degrees, and it's like 10:30 in the morning, or like 11 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, and it's set to be like a sunny, warm one today, and we're painting in blacks, which is going to actually help us an awful lot because the black is going to capture that heat as well, and that's going to help the whole curing process.
Spoilers: we're in Northern California, hence Northern California Ghostbusters. So
I think
we have good weather 9 months out of the year usually.
And as I mentioned, if it seems like I am overspraying this, I am. You can see it starting to work in some places, but it is also like, you can also see where it has more depth than it can fill right now too. Good old Rust-Oleum flat black paint and primer. Basically just flat black primer.
We don't need to paint the underside to that because you can't see it at all.
Yeah,
so it's completely superfluous to do that. You don't need to
Once
do that.
it's screwed down and in place, you never see even me going around and hitting the sides really thoroughly like that is probably overkill.
Yep.
I have a 120 grit sanding sponge. I like sanding sponges personally, but not everybody does.
Actually, I think this is the 120 grit one. That might be the finer one.
Oh, this is the finer one, yeah.
Yeah. I think that's the higher you go, the more fine it gets, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's 180 or 200.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's.
I actually do want the more aggressive one, I think.
So this is what we should have done to begin with for the smoother parts. Apparently the black paint adheres fine, but for the toothpaste method it needs more. The metal paint needs something more to grab onto, so you will need to sand if you're going to do that metallic paint first.
Yeah, if you're trying to do that silver paint undercoating trick, you really do want to stop and sand the surface down a bit. Not a lot, like you're not taking away material, you're not necessarily even trying to smooth it. What you're trying to do is you're trying to rough it.
Yep.
You want it to look a little rough. Yeah, I switched to the sandpaper just to get some bulk off and kind of speed up my stripping process here a bit.
120 sandpaper for those, if you're wondering. Same as the sponge.
That's a good example of what I mean when I say rough the surface. You can clearly see how scratched up that is, and while it kind of looks crappy right now, what it means is the paint is going to have the best possible chance and the most surface area to sort of fill in and grab onto. So once I give it a good paint coat or two, it's going to fill it all in and look nice and smooth and clean.
So now we're just cleaning to make sure that the dust doesn't stay on the
Exactly.
plastic dust and the paint dust.
You know, dust on your surface means that it'll take the paint, and then when that dust comes off the surface, the paint comes with it. So we want to clean it up real good. And the easiest way to do that quickly for you folks on camera is with a little bit of rubbing alcohol and some paper towels. Now, the best method, and I was just telling Greg this, the best method, and what I would prefer to do, is to take all of these to like a sink or a bathtub and just hit them with like dish soap and then put it under running water and then let it dry. That is kind of the ideal method. However, with the HasLab, some of these smaller parts we can do that, but there's parts that we're working with here that we really cannot get fully wet or submersed, so.
Like the cyclotron then.
Yep, there are electronics in that thing.
Okay, this is toothpaste method take 2. We've sanded it, cleaned it.
Whew. You really see that silver paint hang in the air. That's what we've been breathing.
We're outdoors. All right, so now we're gonna let this cure for 24 hours, right, Chris?
Yes.
Okay. This is and also people watching, this is the price you pay when you're like me and you have no patience. So now you're watching us paint these again.
Now you're watching Chris go back and fix all of Greg's mistakes.
That's what it is.
So we're just laying a flat black primer coat.
We really want to make sure the silver adheres to this because the cyclotron is a pain to strip if we mess this up again.
And mind you, I'm not worrying too much about anything besides getting an even coat all the way around all of the surfaces. Basically just trying. The biggest detail that I'm worrying about right now is getting into the nooks and crannies so that there is primer everywhere it needs to be for the next coat to stick to.
That's going to be our first layer. Our first layer before we even think about it. And that's going to cure for 24 hours, right, Chris?
Yep.
Then we're going to do silver. Let that cure for 24 hours.
Yes, you're correct. We're going to do silver and then clear coat and then apply toothpaste and then flat black on top of everything.
So we moved into the garage because that prevents leaves and stuff from outdoors falling on the pack itself. This is the best that we could do, really. We have some open space air, make sure you have enough ventilation. And Chris is going to matte coat this. Now, Chris, what does the matte coat do and what are you using?
I'm just gonna clear coat it to seal the paint in. So it's gonna act as like a protective layer over all of the paint that's been put on this. And keep stuff like the silver dry rub that Greg added from wearing off over time. And the only trick with this stuff is getting it even. Parts that I want to make sure I get a good even coat on because Greg has done so much nice brush work on this piece. Don't stop me now. I'm having such a good time.
How heavy do you generally want to go on a matte coat?
Well, it tends to start drying fairly quickly, so it can be a little bit hard to accurately gauge as you're working on it. Typically, you just kind of want one fine, even coat all over. Some of it just depends on what you're doing and how you're using it. Because, like, I have used matte clear, but giving it a quick dust at an angle like that over something that's been painted silver does an awful lot to make it look like real aluminum that's been given the anti-corrosion coating that they put on it. And that's like one little trick that I've just kind of learned from using this stuff. So it depends on what you're doing. If you're doing something like this, one solid even coat all over and pay attention to surfaces that you might have missed the first time you went around, basically. It probably seems like I'm kind of going back and like adding to, but really I'm just like finding new angles to hit hit that spot from because I hit it from the other angle and it, didn't actually spray down everywhere that it needed to be. See, we stop for 2 seconds and I immediately find a surface that I missed.
That looks nice. As you can see, it's already drying, and you can kind of see where you didn't spray here. Yeah. And where you did, because this isn't painted, this isn't covered. You just want to put the cyclotron lid on. No one's going to see that.
Yeah. So, it doesn't really need any extra layers there at all. So
I don't plan on doing the whole like internal thing.
No.
Unless somebody wants to send us parts. Taco Bell wants to send me the parts, the labels. If you guys want your parts featured on the show,
something tells me Taco Bell doesn't have a lot of trouble drumming up business.
Yeah. So like, I mean, it's more of it's a time thing. It's a budget thing. Also, like, lid on or off, people. I mean, Chris, as you've mentioned, that if we had like a table, maybe it would be worth it. But for me, be cool video to do. But if I spend any more money on this Proton Pack, my wife is going to kill me.
Flipped the bumper over and we're giving it because I just gave it a sort of one-sided dusting with the filler primer earlier. And it's been sitting pretty much the entire time that we've been out here. So for about an hour and a half or so, something like that.
Again, if you're skipping around the video, Chris is going ham because it's going to be, this is sandable primer, it's going to be sanded down, so it is going on thick.
I'm pretty satisfied with that.
Hey guys, we're back and we're going to do a little detail painting on some of the smaller stuff here because the toothpaste method we kind of bungled. So I know how to do this correctly, so I'm going to do it this way. And then we'll do the toothpaste method on the cyclotron and on maybe the bumper, depending on how this looks at the end. It's been a long process, but I'm using Citadel Stormhost Silver to do this. These pieces on the table in front of you, which is the power cell door, 2 of the tubes and the booster tube ladder, have all been painted black, flat black, and have been given time to cure. Now I'm just going to go through the edges and do some light weathering. Unfortunately, I did leave it out in the sun too long and it warped a little bit. You guys can see it, not terrible. It's on the back side, but just right here is where I want it. That's where I want it, all on this side. This is where the door opens and closes. So that's where I want it. This will be sealed in with the mat. So just go over however much you want is your personal preference, how guffed up you want your pack to be. That's all it really takes, guys. That's it. Look at that. Okay. Again, we're just going over the edges. There's already some wear and tear from the toothbrush method that didn't take. I'm gonna turn this up because this is black, so you guys can see. All right, here we go. Just on the edges there, back and forth. I went a little heavy on the silver this time, but that's okay. You can tell it's hand painted, but that's okay. I think that looks really good. We're gonna leave it like that. There's a little chip there. Happy little chip. Remember, however much you want to do, again, is completely up to you and how heavy you want to go on the weathering. It's personal preference. So now I'm gonna get rid of this finer brush because we're gonna go back to the slider mist here. Once this brush, I don't know if you can see it on camera. It's a little bit more fine, more flat. I think that's about right. It doesn't take that much. I think that's good. I'm just gonna cover up a little bit more of that black, just so it looks a little more shiny in certain places. There we go. Definitely by the screws. Definitely by the screws. And that's basically it, guys. Like that, it doesn't take that long at all. This took me, what, maybe 15 minutes. I'm gonna let this sit overnight, and then we're gonna give this a clear coat tomorrow, and then let that sit for 24 hours. So now we're getting back to doing the toothpaste method, which is the process we failed originally. Instead of using Vaseline this time, we're using liquid latex, which was recommended to me on the HasLab Proton Pack Builders Facebook page, a great resource. And we're just gonna do the same thing like we did with the dry brushing. We're just going to take the liquid latex, I use the blunt end of a brush here, and then spread it alongside the edges where chipping would normally occur. Right, so the front, the corners, I went a little ham on this, and then I let it dry overnight and then spray painted a flat black over it. The flat black we use on the Proton Pack. It's important I let that cure for 24 hours, and then I ripped the latex right off, and it actually turned out fantastic. I went a little ham on the latex for the ion bit, but it worked out well, and I'm going to do the same thing on the cyclotron. This time I found a little paint spatula in my hobby drawer, and I'm using that to kind of put the wear and tear. Remember, you're putting the latex wherever you want silver to show after you spray paint it black. So edges, anywhere natural chipping occurs, or anywhere you just want to see it. Honestly, if you feel like I put some splotches in multiple places too, not just on the edges, just because I wanted it to be more damaged on the cyclotron bit. And after you put all the latex on, you're going to want to let it dry for 24 hours or overnight before spraying the black spray paint. Lots of stuff has happened this last week with the painting and the prepping and stuff. So basically, we're using the toothpaste method. The first time we did that, it failed. It was ripping the paint off. So we decided to heavily sand the area, prime it, let it rest overnight, do the silver coat, let it rest overnight, do a matte clear coat, let it rest overnight, then do the latex and peel it off. And that seems to work very well. It just takes a long, long time. So after I masked it off, I hit it with another matte coat before doing the latex, because the tape, actually I did some tests, tape is taking the matte coat off, and it will take off the matte coat underneath this, but I have a feeling matting these small areas off with like paper or newspaper, doing something else is gonna be much easier than doing the whole thing that way. So just to be clear, the tape did take off the matte coat, so I may have to hit it again with a matte coat or a silver coat, but I will be applying all this other stuff here. So this has been a long learning process of trial and error and repeat, and a lot of layering and waiting to dry and layering and waiting to dry. As you can see, kind of see the latex is dried on there. So we're gonna hit this today with just a flat black, let it rest overnight, peel off the latex, and we should have the effect that we're going for. And then I'm gonna tape up the cyclotron lights and the end filter, then do the textured spray paint on the cyclotron lid itself, but avoiding hitting the end filter and the circles because it creates that kind of contrast, so it's not all flat.
So especially on these rings, the trick is to really get them from all sides, because you want to get the outer edges. And you're not going to do that on this side if you're spraying from this side. What that really just means is you go around. Make sure you go around.
Like you said before, overnight. It's got to sit overnight,
Yeah,
8 to 12 hours.
Let it go for a while and really adhere.
Okay, so now after we sprayed it with the flat black color, I am now peeling the latex off, and it's turning out absolutely beautifully. It's exactly what I expected, exactly what I wanted to do originally. I did go a little ham on it and end up getting some tweezers to get it off more accurately, but it was just turning out exactly how I envisioned it. The latex method, also the toothpaste method, worked very well. We used Vaseline, it failed, but everything else looked great. And now I'm taking the tape off, and you can kind of see how the tape is removing the matte coat. You can see it on the cyclotron itself, the little patches, because now I need to do the textured spray paint on the base of it and cover the cyclotron lights in order to give it that contrast. So just be very careful with this part. It's a lot of work, a lot of prep. So you can see here, it took some, if you can kind of look at the thing, it took some of the matting off, but not all of it. So we're gonna matte coat that one more time just to make sure that none of the paint gets peeled off. Little impromptu filming here with really bad lighting. So, toothpaste method out the rings. Carefully covered the rings with a combination of paper and painter's tape. Then I went around and I kind of hit the outer edges again with that silver spray paint. So now I'm gonna let this dry overnight. Then tomorrow I'm gonna do a clear coat. And then after that dries overnight, do some more latex around the edges. And then when that dries, we do the final coat of the textured black spray paint. And then it goes on the pack. And the stickers are ready to go, and it's basically done after that. Let's hope that's a nice, smooth process. I'm doing more of the latex where there are dents in the cyclotron lid up here. I think I'm gonna leave this part alone because I'm just gonna scuff up this part. I think going down here will be too much, but you can do whatever you want. It's your pack, right? It's your pack. Do what you want. So I get a little bit on here. I'm kind of just gonna gently use some so it doesn't get away from me. I mean, honestly, it's all personal preference. Okay, that's all I'm doing today. Very light weathering, not too much. Just a little bit to make it get a little more sand. I'm gonna leave the middle alone, I'm gonna leave the very outsides of the lid alone, just because I already have enough on the outside. So I think on the outside of the circle is good to go. This is gonna dry for 24 hours, then I'm going to paint the texture paint, and then the cyclotron is done. Finally done. I think it looks really good.
Oh man.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah. Yes, he's a little thick because I hit it twice today.
It's okay.
Yeah, that looks great.
It's actually working perfectly. Look at that. That is cool.
I will say that I think that the toothpaste method, like using toothpaste or Vaseline, gives it more of a cracking. The latex is more of a big chips.
And yeah, you can see it does such a good job of just like coming up as like a precise little thing.
Yeah.
Right? Like.
Oh, that looks good. Yeah.
Right?
I did that
Doesn't
on
that look
purpose.
good?
That was. There's some on the edge of the screw too. On the. Yeah, I did when I did it on the little ion arm. I was like, that's fun.
God, that did really well. I am seriously impressed with how this came out, honestly, using the liquid latex.
I actually get to move the camera. I've been having it on a tripod for so long.
We're gonna have to cross-post this clip to just r/oddly satisfying.
So be very, very gentle on these ones because it will take some tape off, and that's okay if it does because it's steel underneath. Oh, you see a little bit there, but that's fine.
I think that
That was a pain in the ass. I did it so gently, like trying to tape it back up because it was ripping off the clear coat.
because that on the tape, that paint is not like paint it's pulling off right now. That is paint that got applied to the tape when it got applied.
Don't the wings look good? Same
Oh,
thing.
yeah.
Wings look great, yeah.
Everything, all of this weathering effect looks awesome. The liquid latex really is like a much better option for this material in particular. So especially on a big like a large round piece like this, you can really tell from the video, like we're circling. We've got it on a small table where I can just completely go counterclockwise or
Clockwise, whatever. Circular
clockwise.
motion.
Yeah, I can circle the thing all in one direction and hit it from all angles. Because the thing, if I'm spraying from this side, how do I get that edge on that side?
Right.
So that's kind of the idea.
And this was sanded, primed, painted silver, dry overnight, coated matte coat, dry overnight, latex, dry overnight, the textured paint, dry overnight, then the black paint last night, and now the silver coat today. Lots of tedious back and forth. You were right though, that's why it's darker, is the matte coat.
Yep. And we are finally to the fun step here. We get to put some stickers on. So Max Factory is a really, really awesome equipment source. There's his details on the back. He is, not only is he the only officially licensed source of Proton Pack parts in the community, for all of us fans of the brand new Frozen Empire, the hero packs used on Frozen Empire, all of their parts, the shell, the thrower, all of their stuff, was sourced directly from Max. Really good source, would recommend. I've used his labels a bunch in the past, and they're really high quality, and he gives you like a bunch of variations of everything.
And instructions too.
And instructions. This is the other cool thing, is like, so it shows you exactly where all of those stickers that you just ripped off came from.
Said, all right, let's get to the stickers.
Yeah.
8 weeks in the making.
Yes, 8 weeks in the making. This took some time, folks.
So it looks like when you peel this off, even with the clear coat on, it's taking up some of the black paint, but it's revealing the silver underneath, which is kind of cool.
If you followed our method exactly and done some of the weathering effects that Greg wanted, let's see, it's gonna happen again on this side because I have one edge of this too low.
You said that the stripe is the biggest pain, right?
Yeah, that added a good bit right there.
These stickers are definitely more more strong than the paint tape.
Yes.
So that's the thing, right? So that's why they're taking off the paint, since they're a lot stronger, the adhesive's better.
I could do better, but
I think it looks okay. I mean, the alternative is ripping it off and doing it again, ripping it off and doing it again. Ripping it off.
yeah, kinda. With the hard one out of the way, we're actually following Mac's label guide. The first one is the booster label, which goes on the top of the pack. So with these metal foil stickers, you can kind of see it from the corner that I started. They are kind of a stiff, like, slightly thicker than tin foil. So this is possibly my favorite feature about Mac's label sets, is these. These are...
Those are like a credit card stock.
Yeah, no, yeah, these are cut metal, like industrial style cut metal labels.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's like the ones actually used on the hero props.
Count to 3 when you hold it. For the metal ones, do you count to 5, 10?
Probably somewhere, if you ever find someone that gives you like instructions for stickers, tell you to press and hold for 10 seconds. Up next is the filler plug label, which is going to be a heavy vinyl cut. And again, like, very thick cut vinyl. The other thing too is if you look very, very, very closely at your reference for these, and he even kind of shows you, the top of this sticker actually sits pretty, well, actually they get pretty close on the stock HasLab, but it sits really high up here actually, like you'll see once I kind of start to get it placed, it actually kind of sits a little bit higher up on this part than you think. Oh yeah. I'm about to do a Peely's. Okay. So now we've reached a decision point. We have both a vinyl and a metallic version of these small Danger high voltage stickers. Greg has elected to go with the metallic. I like the metallic personally as well, but
But screen-wise, it's vinyl, right?
correct. We've got the HGA label here. This one can be extra tricky to put in on these HasLabs. A little trick for getting it on there and aligned without it being like way off this center point here. And because the HasLab HGA has a little center point that I can stand on, I'm taking a little 3/16 hex, key, and I'm just gonna use it down the center of the label, center it up where I want it to land, make sure I have my label aligned right, and then just use that as a way to help make sure it doesn't drift off too far before it presses down.
Oh wow, yeah, it fell right on top of it too. That's kind of cool.
Isn't that a cool trick? Next up is the PPD label.
Beautiful.
Oh wow. Huh. I didn't go far enough over.
That's okay. Mistakes can be made. Ripping it off now would probably do damage, a lot of damage to the paint, so.
All right. Peelies. We have several options now. I am personally a big fan of the silver metallic. You stick to your metallic theme.
Yeah.
Cool. Come on. If I can get it out of there without bending the hell out of it. You're trying to get these two corners within your circle, keeping it more or less square. You can see I still ended up slightly to the right here.
Oh, that looks great.
Right? Man, that looks great on the silver. These are dry rub transfers, or dry transfers. These are one of the cool, sort of unique little things that you can get from Mac. Just about Mac is the only person in the community that I know of that makes these. The thing to keep in mind, apparently, while handling these, is that you want to give yourself a little bit of space around what you're cutting, because, uh-oh. All right, you can already kind of see it transferring. You see how the color kind of changed very slightly, right?
Yeah.
It may not pick up on camera. You don't necessarily need a little tool like this. The way that I learned to do it was to use like a coin, like a nickel, because it has it's flat. Mm-hmm. But I happen to have a handy little nylon tool, so I'm going to use a nice little nylon tool to do it.
I'm watching you do this and I'm just thinking the wand's got to be a pain in the ass. That's all I'm thinking of.
Yep. Yeah, so now you can see it transferring from one surface to the other partially, right? And that's just from the pressure of me.
So you want it all like faded, right? Not
exactly.
Bright red. That's
exactly. So now it should be when I do this.
No, that's okay. It's okay. It adds flavor. Nothing you can do.
Well,
that's okay. This is good to get on camera. Accidents happen. We even sealed it, but it was just that layer on top of it just likes to peel off. But the silver's below it, so we're okay there.
All right, and that is how you completely repaint one of these HasLab packs from start to finish. Thanks for watching, guys. Please don't forget to like and subscribe and all of that mess. I will see you guys in the live chat when this goes live, and if you have any parts that you want to recommend to us or you want us to check out and review or put use to, feel free to reach out to Greg or I.